The more time goes on, the more interested I am in Buteyko. Buteyko encompasses diet and exercise and mental, emotional, and spiritual work. Like, it's just so comprehensive. Should I just start listing off the things I've noticed?
Yeah, that would be great. You've been practicing for how long now?
I started at the beginning of December 2019, so that would be 2 years and 5 months, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, almost 2.5 years.
Yeah. And you've already done a testimony. Your progress sort of 18 months in, something like that.
Yep.
From here on, there's a few more improvements you've noticed.
Yeah, definitely. I made a list and some seem quite like mundane and minor, but I thought I would mention them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The first is I've completely stopped wearing any makeup, which is a bit of a big deal because like I'm still quite fair and pale. I've always been my whole life, but I don't seem to be so pasty anymore. It's like I feel okay going out without makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I have less and less dry skin over the 2 years. Like, dry skin was a serious issue for me, Martha. I was addicted to chapstick. I'd get flaking skin. I would need to constantly be putting lotion on. I hardly do any of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I've just gotten rid of my orthotics. I've worn orthotics for years and years. And one of the big things that drove me into the lifestyle of being willing to do all these things to help myself was constant chronic foot pain. I just went through a 6-week process of weaning myself off orthotics, and the foot pain came back, and I was very discouraged. And I almost broke and bought new orthotics, but I just pushed through, up my pauses. Finally, 6 weeks later, no more foot pain, no more orthotics.
Great.
I have lost quite a bit of weight through my healing process to the point where I was like very skinny. I'm still quite slim, but over the past 5 months since December, I started building my strength and I'm getting strong. I'm actually able to build strength, which I couldn't do a couple of years ago, no matter how I tried. I didn't even have the stamina to really follow through. I'm doing body weight training, like holding planks and push-ups and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been sick since I started Buteyko, and I know for sure I've been exposed to COVID on more than one occasion. For example, I'm back working in an elementary school. COVID just swept through the school. I didn't get it. And I'm one of the only teachers that doesn't wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten any kind of sickness
Mm-hmm.
since I started Buteyko. And that's huge for me because I used to have chronic upper respiratory infections, really bad ones. I am becoming more calm, less fear, anxiety, worry, even though the stimulus has increased, like for everybody over the past couple of years. And some of these things would have been huge triggers for me because I had a phobia of sickness. I'm becoming less and less fearful, less and less rattled over things, less of a midday slump.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I practice throughout the day as I'm learning, because I keep listening to your podcast, which I love, by the way, and the monthly calls, learning to keep a stable CP, I don't have any dips of energy or mood. The more time goes on, the more interested I am in Buteyko, and the more like all these other sort of self-help techniques are falling away because I'm thinking like Buteyko encompasses diet and exercise and mental, emotional, and spiritual work. Like, it's just so comprehensive.
Buteyko is the quintessential holistic approach.
Like,
It affords enormous independence.
yes, gradually dependencies are dropping away one by one. Some of my chronic symptoms went away and now they're back. A few months into Buteyko, I stopped being constipated.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted for about a year. And then around midsummer last year, it came back with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, there's some process going on with the digestive system. Your body wants to eat. That's a sign that there's some process going on. There's a imbalance there.
Okay.
So you need to do something about that. That's important. Pauses on the toilet and moving your tummy is helpful. Squat position and pauses. Have a stool
Okay.
in front of you so you put your feet high. So that helps. And what works for you.
Yes.
Different things for different people. The doctor will have some formula that will get you moving. Basically, the muscles need to be moved in order to deliver CO2 to that part of the body. Now, how you move them, it communicates with the nervous system.
Okay.
You want to move them gently and then build up the vigorous nature of the movement, not overwork, particularly if those muscles are weak.
Okay.
Get some help for some prunes and some beetroot or some sort of salt solution of some kind. Do that too, by all means.
Yeah, for sure. I will. The other symptom that's come is my teeth are so sensitive, especially the front ones. Oh, God. Sometimes if the wind blows the wrong way, it's, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, there's some nerve pain there.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, I just keep getting better and better. And it's such a confidence builder for me because I was able to get my pauses up. I know they're not stable yet, but I trust that that will come. I have a lot of confidence in the practice and in how it works.
Mm.
So I do believe that everything will eventually work its way out.
It will in the end, yeah. The level of improvement is so significant that you can't fault it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I have tried many ways to find a different way of doing things to make it easier. In the end of the day, it's a practice that gets the result.
Yeah.
And I keep proving to myself the practice itself will do the job. Of course, the mind would like it to be something else that is done to me. I don't have to do anything to myself. I'd rather find something else that does it.
Right.
So see,
Okay.
in the end.
Okay. I've been kind of like, had this weird attitude because it went away and it was so good for about a year. And then,
Yeah, well, you get wrapped up in the disappointment.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
I had that when I went into the mountains and my pauses dropped. It took me 2 weeks to get around to practice because my mind was completely absorbed into the disappointment. But you can expect that.
Mm-hmm.
It passes. It always passes. It passes. That's just a phase, and you will when you will. And you won't when you won't. You asked me about whether to fast or not. Well, you'll fast when your body wants to fast.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing about this. You set up a situation where the body's got its own instincts. It starts to speak for itself. And these symptoms are the body speaking to you and saying, look, there's a problem. You take notice of this problem. Try to find out what the problem is. Do something about it. And then, of course, nobody does because they don't know what to do and there's no discussion about the cause of these symptoms. So then the body gives up and people talk about people growing out of asthma or, these things come back and forth temporarily. They appear and then disappear and appear and disappear and you don't see it as a problem. You just see it as an intermittent event and, oh, well, that's just because of old age or, oh, well, that's because I'm stressed or, oh, well, you come up with a reason, but the reason is actually CO2 deficiency. Without CO2 deficiency, you don't produce these symptoms.
So is CO2 deficiency pretty much the reason for all symptoms?
All symptoms in the category chronic disease.
Yeah.
And that was the big discovery. People are talking about low self-esteem, not able to concentrate, feeling unsupported, learning difficulties, whatever. These are all symptoms of CO2 deficiency. The kind of personality you develop into is related as well. And once your control pause is above 30, once you're getting enough oxygen into the brain, everything improves. Your personality changes because it's no longer suffering, your body's no longer suffering from CO2 deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a matter of discharging the old neural pathways and a combination of pauses and a particular approach to the mental symptoms eventually your breathing's normalized and your behavior and your physiology is normalized in accordance with your control pause. Control pause for less
Incredible.
than 20 seconds is a disaster for everybody.
Wow.
Even if you're very fit, performing as well as you could do, you know, the actual physical exercise is hard work. You lose
Mm-hmm.
at night and then you've got to start training in the morning again in order to get back to how you felt yesterday. Whereas if you do this first and then train yourself physically, you won't need to keep training yourself. You'll just be able to perform as and when required, eventually when your control pause is high enough.
Wow.
It's important to pay attention to your breathing. It's important to keep working with your breathing because eventually you're going to be able to respond to every situation in a constructive way to solve out your problems as best you can. And if you can't, you'll be able to deal with the loss much more easily and get ready for when you can get some advantage at some later date. You're not get flattened.
Right. Got it. Is there a fair amount of exercise in your practice as well?
You've got to move every day, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are a lot of your pauses movement pauses?
I do sitting pauses.
Oh, okay, you
Pauses
do.
are the most important. Because they keep recalibrating and reconditioning the respiratory center. They're the most important. The basic work is the most important of all the work.
Oh, okay.
The physical exercise should be done once a day, twice a day maybe. But people tend to want to go over to the physical exercise and leave the sitting pauses, and then they've left out the recalibration of the brain.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I do physical pauses or walking or climbing stairs or something with breath control just to keep that in place.
And do you still practice 4 times a day?
It varies. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I keep track of what I'm doing.
Me too. I still use tracking sheets.
Yeah, so I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm not doing so that you're aware of what's going on. You're contemplating it. It's the important thing, not to get lost.
Yeah.
It's a constant battle with the mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes the body's willing to practice and sometimes it isn't.
Yes.
When you've been doing it as long as I have, you kind of go in and out. But usually once a day, at least. I still take my mouth.
Me too. One really important change that I've noticed is with my kids. It's becoming so much easier. And as I'm calming down, even though they're not practicing Buteyko, they seem to be calming.
You're not projecting your anxiety onto them.
Yeah.
Because the problem is with being a parent is we're anxious about them. We want them to be in our image of what we want them to be, rather than being able to just be with how they are in this world. And this world is not easy, particularly at the moment.
Yeah.
So if we're kind of there with an open book to welcome them and they don't feel that sense of anxiety coming from you, they'll respond. The biggest thing is building trust.
Mm-hmm.
There's no decent interaction or trade with anybody unless there's that trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at the foundation of good business as well. There has to be trust.
Yes.
That you need to be able to say no. And one of the symptoms of having a low control pause is not being able to say no.
Oh, yeah. That was me for sure.
Well, me too.
Mm-hmm.
I was terrified of saying no. It's important to pay attention to your breathing. It's important to keep working with your breathing because eventually you're going to be able to respond to every situation in a constructive way